Hello, my name is Bolahan Obisison. I'm Artistic Director and Joint CEO here at Brixton House, and I'm in conversation with
Waleed, the writer of Kabul Goes Pop.
Waleed. Can you tell me about why you wrote this play and what does it mean to you?
So I think years ago I read the real story of the presenters of the first youth music program in Afghanistan after the war, and I just sort of became obsessed with the story.
Okay.
It was
when was that? When were they sort of running the station?
Oh, so like I think the piece ran in 2006, but I must have read it like 2010.
Okay.
I think someone forwarded it to me, but it was just amazing because there were these young people who were obsessed with music and music videos, and I was as well. Growing up, I was always watching MTV. It was a thing you did. You sort of came home from school and then you ran to the TV and put it on, and it held so much significance, music videos. And so that made me think about like how these people who I'm supposed to have nothing in common with, who are halfway around the world living in this sort of supposedly war-torn country, we like bonded over this. And then the story touched on so many other things that I was sort of interested in, you know, what we mean when we liberate countries, the rights of refugees. And so that story lived with me, and then I was like, I want to make something with this. And that's how the seed for Kabul Goes Pop was born.
Amazing. And I believe you wrote the play during lockdown, or at least I got sent it during lockdown. What was that process like, and where did you even begin to write the play from?
Yeah, so I was sort of labouring writing the play as a one-person show, which seems to be my thing whenever I write a play. They all start out as one-person shows, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, there's 7 characters in this, but I could play them all.
Yeah.
But actually, to be fair, while I was sort of writing it, I was having no joy writing it because it just wasn't working for me. And then I hit upon the idea of making it a two-hander and having the 2 presenters there, and then it just sort of became fun to write on the page, and it sort of wrote itself. So I made that discovery at the beginning of 2020, and then I kind of finished this in the first lockdown, and it was a bit of a lifesaver. Like, you know, it gave me some structure and it gave me something to work on and a way to be creative. But then came sending it out into the world at a time when we didn't know that theatre was going to exist. So sort of sending it to people and getting them to read it and not knowing like what landscape we were going to be entering into. That was when I sent it over to you, and we had some discussions, and you've been like an early supporter of the play. So.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it because primarily I thought it was looking at a really specific part of the world that I, you know, had very little information about, as much as also looking at it from a very playful and quite, you know, in some cases, really authentic depiction of the kind of interest and the fascination with, you know, Western kind of culture and Western iconography, and, you know, the iconography of the time being, you know, pop music and, you know, all those brilliant artists that, you know, we all grew up with and had sort of, you know, at some point sang their songs or, you know, being influenced by, you know, their kind of prominence in the charts as well. So, you know, there was already that sort of playful approach in which you gave me access into their world and into the world of these 2 Muslim characters who, you know, were just obsessed with, you know, pop music and, you know, those American artists. And for me, that was something that I was like, actually, I think other people will be interested in seeing this and be quite invested in what happens to them, what happens to their friendship, but then also how the politics around, you know, where they were trying to celebrate their emancipation and their freedom from was still dictating and dominating exactly who they are and their expression of identity. And, you know, I also didn't think it was for me to direct. And so, you know, Anna, who is directing the play, is someone who whilst I was associated with Vic, and I was like, actually, I'd love for Anna to come and be a part of the, identity of Brixton House, and hopefully, be someone who can bring out the best vision that you had for the play as well. And I hope that's working well for you and the rest of the team.
Yeah, no, definitely. She's the right person for this play. And also, like, going back to what you were talking about, like, she was very much wanting to explore the kind of American soft imperialism that sort of comes out, with the branding and all that sort of stuff. And it's just a really great energy in the room, and kind of really got all the music and the references. So it has been a great pairing. So thanks for putting us in touch.
No worries. In some ways, the play feels very specific, and it feels of a time in history, in recent history. What aspect of it, of Kabul Goes Pop, do you think is relevant to society now that people will be able to draw on, or at least be familiar with?
Yeah, so the play is sort of set in the mid-noughties. So it's obviously after the American invasion, and it sort of happens in a space of time where the Afghan people thought that the society might move in a different direction. Like, there was this little opportunity, this window where maybe they could move it in a kind of Western direction, or at least these characters thought that, but actually the world around them wasn't ready to go with them. And it kind of has metaphors for the end of that invasion as well, because it talks about why was America there, and what is freedom, and what would we in the West accept as freedom, and what do we accept as freedom for people in these countries. And there was this moment where Biden made his speech about leaving, and it was like, well, we were never there for humanitarian reasons. But that wasn't the kind of rhetoric they were using at the time, right? It was all about women's liberation, and that seems like it was a bit of an excuse. And also, so sort of this play, writing it in 2020, not realizing that both Afghanistan and Britney Spears, who is kind of a big motif of the play, were going to be the biggest stories of 2021. And so just I'm very on the pulse. Very on the pulse, I am.
So what would you expect audiences to potentially take away from the play, from your perspective?
I mean, I really hope that they enjoy the music and the fun and the joy of these two characters and celebrate their friendship. But also, I think it's really easy to kind of other people, and hopefully this sort of humanizes them, and like there's a bond through the music to be like, that could have been me. Like, it's so easy, like it's not just someone somewhere else. And I think we're sort of seeing that a bit at the moment, where like the difference between brown and white asylum seekers and refugees at the moment, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I guess, one of the pertinent questions that I know is on everybody's lips and minds is Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, or Shakira? Which one?
I mean, it's gonna have to be Britney for me every time. Yeah. What about yourself? Like, I'm gonna ask that tough question right back to you.
I mean, Shakira's hips don't lie, but I would say that I think Christina Aguilera might have just, picked the post.
And what's your favourite Christina Aguilera song?
Oh my goodness, now you're really testing me. What was that one that she did with, Yeah, it has to be, right? It has to be. So tell us when Kabul Goes Pop starts here at Brixton House.
Kabul Goes Pop starts on May the 11th and is on for like 3 or 4 weeks, so you should definitely come and watch it.